So today I'm going to be showing how to animate text as a mask. So there's a kind of cool effect that you can see right here. And I've seen this a bunch of times in a bunch of different places, and there's a lot of ways to do it. This way is going to specifically take text, convert it to masks, and then animate the vertices of the masks. So let's get started. I'm going to make a new composition. I'll call it light streaks. I'm just going to use the standard HTTP 1080 2997 setting. I'll do 30 seconds. It's fine. So all my defaults. And I'm just going to make some text. So just take my type tool. I'm going to type the word light. And I'm going to grab that and I'm going to make it white for this example. And you can use any font you want. I'm using Roboto, and I'm actually going to use Roboto bold, make it a little thicker, I think. Like so. So once I got that, I don't really need the character panel anymore. So I'll just reset that to save layout. Now, I could turn it to mask right now, but I want to actually use the text. I want to animate it and use that as a reference. So I'm just going to open the position properties of it. I tap P on my keyboard. I think I'll start the animation at 1 second in. And I got a keyframe for that. And maybe 1:15 over here. Just grabbed it, dragged it, held down shift so it's snap in place. I'll hold that in place for about another 1 second or so. So I'll go to 2:15. And I'll just move it up. Okay. So the default behavior of position keyframes is that they make curves. I'm going to highlight all three of the keyframes I currently have, right click, keyframe interpolation, and I'm just going to switch spatial interpolation to linear. So that'll give me perfectly straight lines, which is what I wanted for this example. You may want something else, it's fine, no problem at all. So we'll do that. Starts here, moves over. I did not actually make it hold, so let me grab this and I'll move it over. And I will just copy that previous keyframe, paste it in place. So now I've got movement starting at 1 second, holds for another 1 second, and then moves up. And I think I'll make that movement for, again, another 1 second, just keep it consistent. And I can keep doing that and just move it around wherever I want, no problem at all. So I'm going to use this as a reference. That means if I'm going to nest this composition, I don't want to see this. So I'm going to right click on that layer and I'm going to set it to a guide layer. This will basically prevent that layer from exporting when I render this composition, and it will also, if I use this composition nested comp, so inside of another composition, you won't be able to see it there either. It's just here as reference. Okay, and I'll use that. I'm going to lower its opacity a bit. Just want to, again, I want to use it as a reference for where I should position the shapes. I'll go back to my beginning keyframe, and I'm going to use the command right click on the text layer, create, and I'm going to create masks from text. That's going to create a new solid layer. It'll be white. I can change that, obviously, in layer solid settings if I want. And if I tap M on my keyboard, I'll see there's a mask for every single layer. Now, I have 5 masks, one for LIGHT. Depending on the shape of your letters, you'll end up with more masks or less. So the letters I have here don't have any holes in them, so there's no P's, there's no O's, that sort of thing. Letters that have empty spaces in the middle actually take 2 masks to be created. So if I had like a letter P, there would be 1 mask for the outer shape and 1 mask for the inner shape to cut the hole in. So in this case, not necessary at all. Okay, so I'm just going to tap U on my keyboard with the light layer active. I'm going to jump to each of them, and I don't want to look at the keyframes for this, so I'm just going to highlight the layer. I'll tap the tilde key on my keyboard. Okay, jump to each keyframe, tilde key. And that's not the tilde key, I'm sorry. I'm tapping the asterisk key on my number pad. That allows me to create a marker right on the layer itself. If you don't have a an asterisk key on the number pad. On Mac, the keyboard shortcut is Control 8, and I don't think there's a keyboard shortcut for that on Windows other than the asterisks. But under Layer Markers, that's the command to add marker. And like I said, if you have a layer highlighted, that adds a marker right to the layer itself. If you don't, the same command or keyboard shortcut would add it to the timeline. So this way I don't have to look at the keyframes the whole time. I can just actually know where I want to put it here. So I'm going to go back to my light layer. I'm going to turn back on the original light layer so I can actually see where it is. Okay. It's text, so I'm actually going to open the text properties and change its color. I will make it like, I'll make it a red so I can see it here. So that way I can actually see it against what's happening. So that way I'll be able to line it up with the white text. So go back to my mask layer. I'm going to tap M to reveal the masks. It's going to show each mask in the mask path property. And I'm just going to grab all the masks. Each of them looks like the letter itself. And I'll make a keyframe right here at the beginning. So this will be the first holding keyframe. And then the text moves over. So I'm just going to grab some of the vertices of the mask. I'll take my selection tool and I'm just going to grab some of them. This works best, I've found, if you grab something that'll make a straight line if you move in a straight line like this. So I'm going to grab everything from the right side up until the right side of the eye. It's going to make it really big. I can just use my arrow keys to shove it over. I'm holding down Shift and right arrow and nudge it over. That moves it 10 pixels at a time. I can also just use the arrow keys to move it one at a time. And the other choice, if I just hover over one of them, I can just drag it. So I'm holding down Shift as I drag it. That way it makes it line up, and I end up with this. Okay. So during that hold point, which now I'm at 215, I want to move the rest of the keyframes over. But here's the problem. The L didn't have a keyframe made here because it wasn't affected at all. So I'm just going to turn on the Add Remove Keyframe button while I'm at 115. I need keyframes at every single step of this. If I forget one, it's not going to animate properly. So now I'll jump to the next marker, 215. I will grab the remainder of the vertices that were left over that didn't move. And then again, I can just hover and drag them, or I can use the arrow key to nudge them, whichever one you like. And again, I want to make sure that lines up with the reference layer so that I can keep it all in position. I'll jump forward one more frame. Now lights up here. I'll grab a bunch of the top facing anchor vertices. Most of the programs call them anchor points, but After Effects still calls them vertices. And I'm trying to find something that'll look good when I move it up. Let's see if I grab up to about here, I think might be nice. Yeah, that actually goes pretty well. So I'm holding down Shift as I drag it up, so it'll say straight. Okay. And then I'll just dump a few frames forward, so I'll go 4 seconds. I'll grab the remaining keyframes. And actually, before I do that, I need to undo what I just did because I forgot to add keyframes for the remainder of the letters right here. So I've got to make sure that all of my masks have keyframes at the right point. Otherwise, they won't animate properly. Okay, so now I'll go back. I'll do this again, grab everything up to here. Drag it straight up so it lines up. Okay, anything that doesn't have a keyframe, no, they all have keyframes, it's good. Now I'll jump to 4 seconds. Grab again, highlight the masks again, grab the bottommost anchor points. Now drag them up to finish off the shape. So if I solo that layer, and then I'm just going to move my work area bar in so I can see it, that's the result. Like so. I'd probably want to highlight the keyframes, hit F9 on my keyboard to add a little easing, because it looks a little better. I can turn on motion blur for the layer. The movement of the vertices actually counts as something that can be motion blurred. So I get that little motion blur going on. A little more interesting motion, I think. And I can keep doing that. So I can basically keep moving vertices maybe half of the vertices of the letters, then let the other ones catch up, give a little pause, and I can keep doing that over and over again. I only made 2 position changes, right and then up, but I could literally do this all day. No problem at all. And that's the result. And I have now stretching letters.